Welcome, welcome, many times welcome to JWC Livestream. Today is going to be a Nidhogg read. Last time we read chapter 5. This is chapter 6 of Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows by Richard Andrew Olcus. This is chapter 6, entitled Mars. Nidhogg heard the moorings decouple and then beheld a hologram of a front-facing feed on her saucer as it birthed from the cylinder. A breathtaking view of Mars dominated the deep blackness of space, with scintillating stars on the periphery and a sandy red globe ahead. The distance passed rapidly as they shot through a gravity well, banking into an approach window for the aforementioned coordinates. Didn't take long for them to descend into the frail atmosphere and zig and zag downwardly. One horizon was marked by a distant dust storm milling its way across the rust-colored wilderness, whereas the other seemed a dingy pink canopy fading into an alien twilight. As they flew over a vast plain, 3 enormous towers, half melted by the endless weather and flow of time, dominated the scene. It declared for all the universe to see that there had once been a marvelous civilization here, one capable of industry and ingenuity reminiscent of Earth's own prehistoric age, an epoch that saw the megaliths be laid out and constructed. Nidhogg's saucer dropped altitude as they passed to the south of those colossal structures, nearing the destination and sweeping the surface for an optimal landing site. Before the descending craft, there lay sprawled a complex of ruins, more than half buried in the dust. What red stone that could be seen emerging from the ground was melted by erosion, being hardly visible unless you were right on top of it. Nidhogg turned to Kayla as the off-ramp lowered, and they both faced the adventure that waited before them. Having descended the ramp and felt the first footfalls of the Martian surface, Nidhogg followed Kayla's lead as she took direction from the MPS system. Arrows of augmented reality were projected on their helmeted visors so that both bearing and distance guided them smoothly. Kayla found the way in, noticing a unique feature in the ruinous stone, which provided a shelter where sand could not easily build up or stay accumulated. 6 stones resembling boulders loomed over what looked to be steps leading down, with retaining walls and a slight canopy providing a double shelter. Wordlessly, they wormed their way to the steps, having to twist and turn between the stones, placing their feet carefully onto the first steps. Down into the comparative darkness, they descended, activating search lamps and nocturnal modes which their suits provided, beholding their own shadows as they invaded Martian catacombs. Kayla spoke as they found the bottom, walking with confidence to where their objective lay. This is the royal necropolis. Dead kings and queens, emperors, princes, and even some exultant servants lay moldering down here. These, as well as a mysterious oddity. The ruby slab mentions a league of warriors called the Shadow Crusaders. They were said to guide the planet, keep safe the royals, and to oversee all peaceful transitions of power. Praise for the Shadow Crusaders can be found throughout the slab, as well as in other reference works that are marked as classified. Some esteem them as a pantheon of stellar deities, going so far as to say their gods created Mars, but that the Martian Shadow Crusaders preserved it. As fascinating as it all is, I can't help but wonder, if they were so amazing at preserving, then why did Mars's planetology die? Nidhogg listened to Kayla as though she were traveling back in time, catching winkles of clairvoyant revelations, seeing visions of ancient Mars alive with native plants and animals. Cities, battles, aerial vehicles came in and out of her mind's eye, suggesting the truth beyond her own wispy daydreams. Yet it didn't feel like just a daydream. It felt real, being more a memory brought back from her recollections than a glimmering of conjecture. Nidhogg's hissing voice husked into the calm, having a fair share of distance, betraying awe. They sound like superheroes. And how old is this slab, this whole complex? What age are we talking about here? Kayla talked as she walked, being driven by close proximity to his target, speaking distractedly as they navigated a gridwork of tunnels which would have disoriented anyone. They do sound like superheroes, but we haven't read enough to make that leap just yet. That should be our first priority, however, once we get someone on the inside who can manage that kind of security clearance. As she finished saying this, Kayla and Nidhogg found themselves at a particular grave level, one well chosen to provide them with as much as target as they could carry. This is the Wing of Queens. Down this way, we will find the remains we seek, the ones who lived during the optimal age, having had prolific access to the fungus in its best cultured state. We may even find samples of actual spores in their clothing, or perhaps preserved in containers of superior construction. Although it sounds like wishful thinking, the very nature of the ruby slab gives me grounds to wonder. What else were they capable of? Nidhogg followed Kayla as darkened recesses parted before them. She didn't have more than a glance at Kayla's spotty report, having learned that when the complex had been auto-mapped by drones, that no dangers had been present. Booby traps, faulty structures, or even dormant security tech might spring into action, or maybe would have if the drones had feet. The worst mysteries lived in stone. Would Kayla be crazy enough to get them killed down here? Nidhogg didn't think so, and put the rest of her trust in this old associate who had never before failed her. As they passed down a declining passage, Nidhogg heard a small ringing, sensing that it oriented from a side passage that they had just moved beyond. Besides this, and it was just for a second, it seemed as if someone had been standing there, watching her as they walked by. She called out to Kayla, wishing to turn back. Kayla, I just heard something strange, like a noise in my head. Something tells me to check it out. I don't know why. Kayla turned around, and their collective lights reflected off the suit's mutual metallic sheen, raising the light level. Kayla was about to speak. When she cast her eyes on the aforementioned passage, the words stuck in her throat. She gestured to it, waiting for Nidhogg to follow the pointed finger before speaking. That one, right? Nidhogg nodded. Kayla said, I see what you mean, but it's weird because I did not feel anything a moment ago. It makes me wonder. She consulted her augmented data and hesitated only a moment before speaking. It says that passage contains the mummies of a deposed house who had not lost in death what they had lost in life through some discovered treason. Their house bled dry of funds and properties to avoid exile or execution. Even so, the sense I'm getting, that ringing, as you call it, well, it might mean something pretty good for us. There's no warning of danger cited on the automap data. We can risk it if we hurry. So they made haste, headed down yet another decline into a more cave-like region of the crypts. Discoveries were manifold, one in particular. It would have been an easy thing to miss, but Nidhogg touched Kayla to point it out. Above a more ornate doorway, there protruded what looked to be a sconce for a torch. Yet in the space where a brand would flicker instead rested a bauble the size of an avocado. Nidhogg grasped inadvertently and asked, What is that? It's ringing dully in my head. Kayla chuckled, pumping her fist exultedly. Oh, Nidhogg, if you had any idea, you'd be dancing with me right now. It's just wonderful. Kayla spun around like a child prancing through the rain puddles, her voice girlish with delight. It is another device, a device like the one that deflects our minds from the collective. This is amazing. Then, as if she were plucking a ripe fruit, she ripped the artifact from its place. After a brief inspection, Kayla theatrically stroked the Martian surface, wiping off the grime of ages from a dark, stony, angular shape, taking time to present it to Nidhogg before plunging it into a backpack. Nidhogg saw its corrosion-free metal base in Kayla's palm and a vaguely spear-shaped head looking to be composed of dark gemstone or light obsidian, or perhaps some other mineral less known to her. It seemed beautifully carved, though not easy to look at. Nidhogg rolled the sensation of its psychic broadcast around in her mind, then spoke before Kayla could turn around. "What is it, Kayla? Don't keep talking to me like I'm stupid. I've never seen anything but a bloody brood. I've never been anything but a bloody broodmare, and that's not my fault. They never let me go off world. So if we are going to be partners, then communication is important." Kayla smiled and chuckled faintly, her voice falling back into a slight reservation as she navigated Nidhogg's wild mood swings. "Oh, how I missed you, Nidhogg. Yeah, I'm sorry. They all said I have a know-it-all vibe, but that's not how I want to come across to you. That thing you spotted with your third eye and that I somehow missed is another device, the same kind of Martian device that I used to block the collective's telepathic broadcast. Now we have two of them, and this one is yours, provided we can test it and discover if it is the same kind, the quality, and if whether it's undamaged. A few tests will sort it out. I'm sorry if I upset you, but we have to get going. There's a lot we still have to do." They entered a sepulchre where many shelves stored open-air mummies, each one more desiccated and crispy from long ages than the last. What was more, they had jars and recesses lining the inner walls. These contained various prizes that deep time had left miraculously unspoiled. Kayla produced a wand of some sort from her suited belt, and after waving it over some of the grimy acquisitions, she yelped, sounding baffled or somehow blunted of wit, like someone scared awake by thoughtless companions. She fluttered gloved hands with excited, nervous stimulation, trying forcefully not to hop around. "Wow, we lucked out. This is fantastic." Nidhogg sighed in mild exasperation, but to her credit, before she could vent about Kayla being an uncommunicative know-it-all, she turned to explain, "It's the samples. This is prime fungus for the ish target, and may in fact be the best yet. Wow. I mean, it's just fantastic. I'm going to have to bring you here more often." Nidhogg made two fists at her side. Her voice came in a deep hiss as she replied, "So, I did good? I found the good stuff?" Kayla laughed loudly and gave Nidhogg a bear hug, taking advantage of Martian gravity while lifting her off of the ground. "Yes, you did perfectly. Now help me pack this stuff up. We have lots of samples to take, and I don't want to miss anything. Remember, mistakes in the field cost you double in the lab. So let's do everything by the book." As they plundered the sepulchre, filling several bags which Kayla packed in her own backpack, Nidhogg felt the hands of destiny wandering down her spine. She hovered over Martian mummies, seeing inhuman skulls peeking from beneath their blasted skin, withered by a million years of entropy. They packed every bag, seeing each one hung from a harness fixed to Kayla's suit, her backpack, as well as Nidhogg's own. After taking one final scan of their surroundings, they departed, plunging the sepulchre back into total darkness. Kayla walked and went over the catalog, checking entries in order to ensure accuracy. Nidhogg watched her back, taking time to check every corner, junction of wall to ceiling, or notches on floors or door jamb. They found themselves bathed in Martian twilight, with dark violet giving way to dull red. The gritty dust crunched under their tread as they climbed the steps leading back to the surface. So, folks, that was Nidhogg Chronicles, Crusade of Shadows by Richard Andrew Olkus. That was chapter 6, entitled Mars. Thank you so much for listening. Head over to joeswritersclub.com. go to joeswriters.club and sign up at our forums. Check out JWC's social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And most important, head over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and share to any who would like the content. And check in the comments. We're going to drop a link for Nidhogg Chronicles. If you like what you heard as far as the read is concerned, maybe you'd care to make a purchase and support underground authors like myself. And we thank you so much for listening. And we hope you have a good one. Stay creative, folks.